I don't just talk about other people's stuff, I also make my own. Books in particular. To date, I have 4 books you can check out on Amazon. Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and the short story collection Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Hop on down to the description for Amazon links to all 4 books. Enjoy whichever ones you read, and enjoy the video. Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm the Omni viewer here with more MonsterVerse news. You may recall that a couple of days ago, it was announced that another MonsterVerse project was in the works. It was assumed to be a film. The original announcement didn't specifically say film, but that was what was generally assumed. It had to be a film. We had an anime, we had a series. The next project had to be a film, right? Well, more news has come down stating that 1, it is a film, 2, Adam Wingard is apparently returning to direct that film, making him the first returning MonsterVerse director, and 3, it's allegedly going to be Son of Kong. Now, a lot of people are latching onto that as an absolute because clickbait, but some of the more reputable sources are still saying that there's a chance it could change. After all, the project was only just announced. Well, it's got to be very, very early in development, so then again, actually, we don't know how far along in development it really is, so scratch that part. We just know that it's possible that could still change. For the moment, though, we can safely assume that Son of Kong is a likelihood because Son of Kong was one of those titles floated around back when Godzilla vs. Kong first released and was successful. Now, back then I wouldn't say I was doubting that Son of Kong was definitely going to be the next film. I simply said that there was a likelihood that it was not necessarily going to be the next film. They said they were floating around several ideas. They released Son of Kong in particular because that was probably going to get the most attention, let's be honest. But for the moment, at least, it looks like Son of Kong is what they're going to be going with. Maybe. Again, it could change. We don't know that for certain. For the rest of this video, though, let's just play along for a moment. Let's assume that it really is going to be Son of Kong. Let's assume that it's definitely set and somehow the next movie is going to introduce a son, whether directly descended or adopted, for the character of Kong as he exists in the MonsterVerse, thereby playing off of the original sequel to the 1933 film while simultaneously updating it and using it to expand a new shared universe and a new interpretation of this mythology. My question has always been from the very beginning, how the heck are they going to do that? Because, as you know, if you've been following these films, they've made it very clear that Kong is the last one of his kind. Like, Titans tend to be pretty singular in the MonsterVerse anyway, but they're always implied to have at least been part of a species at some point, usually way, way back. And there might still be other members of their species out there, but for now we've mostly only ever seen one example of each, with a few exceptions like the Skullcrawlers and the Mutos and so on. But with Kong in particular, they've made a point of emphasizing his singularity. Kong is not only the only one of his kind around, he is definitely the last of his kind. They have made that abundantly clear. He is not only the last one on Skull Island, they went down into the Hollow Earth where the Titans originated from and where the Kongs clearly had a major presence, and they were looking around. They went to a place where you would think the Kongs would be, and they didn't find any other examples of the species. Just artifacts that were left behind. There were no other Kongs, no other Godzillas either, but no other Kongs. They made it very clear. Kong is the last one. So it is possible, I guess, that they could just say that there was a baby Kong tucked away somewhere in the Hollow Earth that remained undetected up until this point, and is somehow inexplicably younger than the Kong who's been alive since God knows how long. Like, he was a teenager in the 70s, and he clearly ages slower than most humans do, so he could have been around since, who knows? They've never really specified that part, not even in the prequel comics yet. But I feel like if they did that, it would be kind of a cheap move, really, which I guess means I can't really put it past them. But I mean, you don't spend that much time emphasizing that a particular character really is the last of his kind, and then just suddenly bring in another one out of nowhere. In the original film, let's not forget, that original 1933 movie never said that King Kong was the only member of his species left on Skull Island. That's another example of where we only saw one of every creature, because that was cheaper. But at the same time, we can't really say for certain that Kong was the only one of his kind in that case. And that was only introduced in later interpretations, or by later people who saw the movie and had a better understanding of how primates actually work and how they actually are social beings, and it's very unusual to see one alone like Kong is. So that leads to the interpretation that maybe he is the last of a dead species. But that was never really specified, so when you get to the sequel, Son of Kong, the original one, it kind of doesn't throw you for as much of a loop, because you could potentially rationalize that maybe there are more Kongs out there. Who knows? Skull Island is a big place. We only cover so much of it in that first movie. Maybe there is another one out there, at least another one, aside from the offspring. But here, in the MonsterVerse, where it has been clearly established that there is only one Kong left, and he is mortal, so once he's gone, that's it, that leaves the lingering question of where you would get another one so you could justify making Son of Kong. I actually started pondering that question way back at the beginning, and as often happens with me, very quickly a solution occurred to me. Not one of my own devising, mind you, but I have a book in my collection that I am currently reading for Kaiju Lit Circle, which could potentially provide an answer. Since I'm still in the process of reading this book, I'm not going to give you a full review of it right here, but I will tell you what the book is. Kong Reborn by Russell Blackford. It was released in 2005, not long before the Peter Jackson remake, so probably meant to somewhat capitalize on that. But this book provides a potential answer for how a Son of Kong could be introduced into the MonsterVerse, even though it has nothing to do with the MonsterVerse. This is actually one of the many alternate sequels out there to the original 1933, because it seems nobody really likes the original Son of Kong. I mean, I think it's okay, but it's clearly not equal to the original, but that's beside the point. So, for those of you who have never heard of this book, you're probably wondering, how does it introduce the idea of where a potential Son of Kong could come from? Well, the plot basically goes something like this. 1999 or so, because that's the prologue, I believe, some blood splatters are discovered way up on top of the Empire State Building during a regularly scheduled cleaning. And it turns out those blood splotches are from when King Kong was shot down back in the 30s. Most of the gore was cleaned up, but a few bits were missing. And Jack Denham, is that right? Yes. Jack Denham, the grandson of Carl Denham, who is in charge of a genetic research and animal preservation company, gets a hold of this material and realizes he has an opportunity to clone the original King Kong. And there I think our solution comes in. If the legendary crew doesn't want to retcon the idea of Kong being the last of his kind, but they still want to bring in the Son of Kong, if they want to have their cake and eat it too, they can potentially do it this way. You could potentially have a plot in which Monarch realizes that Kong is not going to be around forever. They've always kind of been implied to know that anyway, hence why they went to such great lengths to preserve him. But they realize that Kong is aging, eventually he's gonna die, and that will be the end of his species. It's not like Godzilla, where he's seemingly immortal, or Mothra, where he can reincarnate. It's just, once Kong is gone, he's gone. So they extract some genetic material from him and figure out a way to make a new young Kong. Somehow. I'm sure they couldn't sci-fi their way through it. And they want to do that while this original Kong is still alive, so that he can potentially teach this new one the ropes. And if it's successful, that can help them perpetuate the species artificially at first, but eventually to a point where they can start breeding on their own and repopulate the Hollow Earth, and maybe Skull Island above. No, wait, they can't do that. Skull Island is gone, never mind. But that's a potential idea I think could work. Now, mind you, Kong Reborn goes off of the idea that the original Kong is dead, hence why they clone him. I don't necessarily believe that they would go that far in a Son of Kong for the MonsterVerse. At least not yet. There's still a potential that in future sequels, Kong could die at some point, maybe get the Iron Man treatment from Endgame where he gets a big hero moment, but I don't think they're going to kill him just so they can bring in a Son of Kong. They probably start setting him up as maybe a patriarch for this new tribe of Kongs that's going to be brought in. That is just a potential answer, mind you. I'm not saying that it's the answer. I'm not saying that's definitely what the MonsterVerse is going to do, but it's possible. If I were going to be making a Son of Kong movie and I wanted to stick to what had already been established and not undo that particular bit of Kong's mythology, I would turn to that book for inspiration and go with the cloning aspect. But maybe that's not what they've got planned. And, you know, if that's not what they do, if they have a completely different idea in mind, I will wait to see how it actually plays out. I'm not going to judge it until I've actually seen it. Unless the idea is just so inherently stupid that just hearing it makes me think, oh, come on, really? But we don't know the details yet, so I'm not going to say any of that. I'm just saying that it is a possible answer, so we'll see. Anyway, that's the big news. And yes, Adam Wingard, we kind of knew Adam Wingard was going to come back anyway because Legendary was already talking to him about it as soon as Godzilla vs. Kong brought everyone back to theaters and became the first big hit of 2021. But now I believe it is actually confirmed. And, you know, maybe he'll be given a little bit more freedom in this one. I don't want to say Godzilla vs. Kong was the victim of studio interference, but you can kind of tell that the studio was maybe pulling the strings a little. I mean, I'm not retracting anything I said about Godzilla vs. Kong. I still think the movie is good. Maybe not necessarily the best the MonsterVerse has to offer, but I do still think it was good. It was provided the escapism we need, and I like escapism. Still, though, it's possible that the studio wanted the film to succeed at any cost, so they kind of steered it in a particular direction. Now that it's succeeded, maybe they'll bring Adam Wingard back and say, we can give you a little more freedom to really shake things up. Or maybe they're bringing him back because they know he'll play ball, and when they say jump, he says how high. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, Adam Wingard's coming back, and that leaves the question open as to whether or not the other directors would come back at some point too. I remember how they were all gathered together for publicity to promote Godzilla vs. Kong, and it seems like they all are proud of contributing to the MonsterVerse. They're all proud of their work. We know Michael Dougherty wants to come back. I'm not so sure Gareth Edwards would want to come back necessarily, because it seems kind of like after directing Rogue One, he kind of got scared off by going big in Hollywood and wanted to get back to the smaller, more indie projects that would give him more time to stay at home with his family. And Jordan Vogt-Roberts, I believe, has said he wants to come back. And of course, I'm all for bringing in new faces to direct the MonsterVerse. Not necessarily new directors, though that would work as well, but established directors, just anyone who hasn't done the MonsterVerse yet, but would be interested and could potentially direct a good film. I mean, we'll see. The MonsterVerse is clearly not over. It's still got some life left in it. How much life? I don't know. But either way, the next project is happening soon, and whether it definitely is Son of Kong or mutates into something else, we will see. And what comes after that? Well, I know a certain turtle a lot of us are hoping will show up, but, well, we'll cross that bridge when the announcement is actually made, whenever the heck that is. The MonsterVerse has moved slowly up to this point, and, well, anyway, I'll be keeping my eyes open, you know me. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni viewer signing off. Congratulations, you reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to consider supporting us on Patreon. Of course, the other way to support us is to go to Amazon and check out our books: Operation Red Dragon, The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, The Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Also check the description for links to DeviantArt and other platforms we operate. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.